Welcome into another edition of Sports Junkies here at RacineSportsZone.com. Time to talk some college basketball, not high school basketball this week. I'm Sparky Fifer from the Wendy's Big Show, weekday afternoons on AM 1250 and 105.7 FM The Fan. Gery Woelfel on the other side of the table. You know him, columnist here at the Racine Journal-Times. In the middle, wearing his green, is Luke Reigel, the coach over at UW-Parkside. Thanks for coming in, Coach.
My pleasure.
All right, first things first. Let's learn a little bit about you. So give me your background. How did you get to Parkside? Where were you before Parkside?
Okay. I grew up in southeast Wisconsin. Okay. I played for my father out at Wilmot High School. Okay. And actually, this Friday, they're naming the court after him.
Nice.
So
that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a great honor for him. But I played there, and then I started my basketball career up at UW-Stevens Point. Didn't have a great experience, transferred down to UW-Platteville with Coach Ryan.
Nice.
And that's kind of where everything got started for me as far as my coaching career is concerned. I played a year, knew I wanted to get into coaching, and he helped me get an assistant job over at Platteville High School. Ended up coaching both of his sons.
Wow.
And then came back and was a graduate assistant for Coach Ryan before he went to Milwaukee. So
that's amazing.
That was everything. And then assistant position opened up back at Parkside, and I needed a job that actually paid something.
That would be good.
Came back there, was an assistant for 3 years, and then Jeff Rutter, who was the head coach at the time, took an assistant job out at Northern Iowa, and I became the head coach, and that's 13 years ago now.
And you've been rolling ever since.
Well, there were some times where we're rolling down the wrong hill, but it was one of those things where it's going to take a long time to build, and we had a lot of success early, and then hit a tough patch where we had injuries and different things, and now we've got it going, and hopefully continue this in this direction for a long time.
Now, this is what year for you?
This is my 13th year as the head coach.
I find that absolutely mind-boggling. It seemed like maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, when it is double digits. Did you ever expect to be at Parkside 13 years when you started out?
I wouldn't say I didn't.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where, when you become a head coach, you really don't worry about what's next. You just try to get so wherever you're at, you try to get it going.
Right.
And we love living in this area. I have 2 sons that we can go up to Milwaukee, we can go down to Chicago, see any sporting event we want. My wife has a great job, so we really love the area.
Mm-hmm.
You just didn't know if we could get it to this level. I mean, with the teams that are in our league, I always compare. We're like the American League East of college basketball. D2. I mean, you have Southern Indiana and Bellarmine and Drury. You have teams that are perennially powerhouses, and so we didn't know if we could get up to that level. Fortunately, we have.
Well, I remember 3 or 4 years ago, people were clamoring for Parkside to get out of the conference because it was too tough. and all of a sudden, the last 4 years now, you have had 4 straight 20-win seasons, which, by the way, no coach in Parkside history has ever done that.
That's impressive.
And you think of the great teams they had back in the 70s. That is impressive.
Yeah, and it's something that, you just get the right people in the program. The thing that I've noticed with the group we have now, because we graduated so many good players from last year's team, is that there's just an expectation level of every time we step on the floor, our players believe we're going to win. It doesn't matter who we play. And, I mean, this last road trip, I think, was a perfect example of that. I mean, we trailed by, double figures with under 5 minutes to go. We trailed by 8 with a minute to go and pushed both games into overtime and ended up winning both. So we have a great group.
I have noticed you got a few more grays in the last week or two.
I told our guys, I don't know if it's gray or it's just glowing. I'm lucky I'm a little taller. You can't see the top of my head.
Well, the crazy thing is, like, the last couple of years, people expected Parkside to be in the hunt for the title, okay? This year, I don't think many people expected Parkside to be in the hunt. I mean, you lost, like you said, a lot of good players, and even by your admission, I don't think you expected this, did you?
No, we didn't. I mean, we have 14 players in our program, and only 1 is not in his first or second year. Wow. I mean, that's how young we are, and that's how I thought the inexperience would catch up with us at some point. But we have tremendous senior leadership. That the young players that are in our program that are sophomores all played meaningful minutes last year. And I didn't know if it would carry over as much as it has, but it has. And they've stepped up. They've made huge plays. A player like Kendall McCullum, who was a solid backup point guard last year. I mean, he's an all-conference player this year for us. And so you have those guys make that big leap into their second year, and you're able to maintain the success.
For those that haven't seen Parkside play, what kind of offense are you running?
We try to run 2 different types of what I would call motion. We have our traditional, 4 out, 1 in, put the big guy down low, and everybody else cutting and screening. And on the perimeter. And then we have what I would consider a ball screen motion, where we're just continually coming off ball screens. We're moving, we're cutting. I'm not one that loves a lot of set plays. I like to put in a structure and then get everybody moving. And the trending thing to say would be like something like Golden State.
Right.
But that's how we like to play. We like to pass and cut and move. We don't like to run a play for this guy over and over and over again.
You and I wouldn't get along because that's what I'm watching in Milwaukee for the Bucks right now. Because when you have now at your level, maybe it's a little bit different. But you already said your point guard might be an all-conference point guard, right? I mean, when you have a star player, you want to get him the ball.
Right, but I think what good teams do is, like within our motion system, they know who's playing well.
Right.
Our Andy Mazurchak, who's going to have a chance to be All-American for us this year, down at Truman State, he scores 21 straight points at the end of regulation and overtime.
The Bucks would never be allowed. The Bucks would call a timeout and pull the guy out. We would never have that in Milwaukee. So that takes care of that out.
He scored 21 straight, though?
He did. And we were down 7 with about 6 or 7 minutes to go.
Wow.
And he scored, I think, the last 18 of regulation and hit a 3 to start overtime. And, we end up getting the win. And I've never seen anything like it. I mean, when you know where the ball is going to go, they tried zone, they tried, switching man to man, and he just went on an unbelievable roll. And again, I mean, he put us on his back, but we called very few plays for him. Our players are just intelligent enough to know, okay, this guy's rolling, get him the ball.
Your key.
And that's what I've noticed within our offense is, for probably the last 4 years, we've been, at or near the top of the nation in field goal percentage, and it's because our players understand who to get the ball to. And I remind them.
Sure.
But, it's one of those things where we talk about it. We talk about shot selection all the time in practice of, okay, what a good shot for our power forward might be a really good shot in the first half, but with 3 or 4 minutes to go, it might not be as good a shot. And our guys have bought into that, and it's led to our offensive success for sure.
Okay, let's talk about another aspect of this. How do you recruit at your level, Division II? I mean, because obviously it's no different than any other sport. You have to recruit in order to be as good as you are. You have to be able to get the players, but yet you're not getting Division I players probably.
I think what we get are Division I players that fall through the cracks, are guys that maybe they wouldn't be a Division I player, coming out of high school, but by their junior and senior year, they would be very good players in, let's say, the Horizon League.
Yep.
I mean, that's what we've made our living on. And the thing that's the hardest part of Division II, especially being at Parkside, is you have to be ridiculously patient in recruiting. Because all the players that we recruit all have Division I dreams. I mean, that's the level of player we're trying to...
So they wait forever.
Right. So we're sitting in... I mean, most of the best players that we've signed during April, May, and even June of their senior year of high school. And it's a game of
Patience
chicken where you're sitting there, you're like, if we don't get this guy, then what do we do? But from mistakes in the past when we've rushed into guys that it's like, well, we have to have a player, and then they don't pan out. It's not something that's been successful. So when I look up and down, like Andy Mazurchak, who, like I said, he has a chance to be player of the year in the league. It was us in a Division III school that were the only people recruiting him.
Wow. And
he signed in either late April or early May after his senior year. And, there's no way we could project to the level where he's at. Right. But almost our whole starting lineup, if I look at our starting lineup right now, almost every player signed after their senior year. And we even had one of Jalen Curry was at a junior college. He's originally from Milwaukee, Riverside. He went to Kirkwood Junior College out in Iowa. He signed with us in basically July after his sophomore year. And so you just have to be patient enough to get players that fit. You can't take a guy because he has talent, but he's not going to fit your system.
How much of your recruiting is based around Wisconsin kids?
It's been early on when I first took over at Parkside, we only had 2 out-of-state scholarships.
That's it?
That was it. So we were 80-20, Wisconsin players to Illinois. Mm-hmm. Over the last 6-7 years, Parkside has changed where there's a lot more academic money for players from Illinois. So the same student, one from Wisconsin and one from Illinois, actually gets a lot more academic money from Illinois. Wow. So we've flipped. Where like our last 4 or 5 years, I'd say.
Our setup.
It's just we're so close to Illinois that we want to draw a little bit out of there. But it's one of those things where so now probably 75% of our players are they're all from within an hour and a half of Parkside. It's just a few more from Illinois than Wisconsin, and that's it's a battle every coach fights. I know people in Racine would love that if my whole roster was
the entire Park High School.
Exactly, and it's just one of those things where when you recruit local players, they have to have a great support system where that if they're not successful right away, not everybody's telling them that the coach doesn't know what he's doing or, that, hey, just battle through, you'll get there. Because it's hard when we're at the level we're at. It's very hard for freshmen to come in and play a lot for us now. I mean, we're lucky. We have a freshman of the year candidate who's a 6'10" center out of the suburbs of Illinois. But otherwise, when we finished in the top 25 the last 3 years, it's tough for freshmen to come into a program like that and play right away.
Well, who's the okay? Last year I went with a friend. I think I told you this story to Libertyville to watch Jalen Brunson play.
Okay.
And during the course of the game, there was this 6'10" kid, and I thought, he got my attention. And I go, somebody is going to get a steal here. I mean, he's not ready, but maybe down the road, some kind of a project player. But he really intrigued me. So lo and behold, I'm on the phone with Luke about 2-3 weeks ago. The kid's at Parkside.
Really?
Yeah, and he's redshirting for us. And, I mean, we've never had a 6'10" center redshirting. And there are days where he's one of the best players in our practice.
The game I went to, he looked good.
I mean, he has it's a lost art. He's a big man that actually likes to post up. He doesn't have to go shoot threes. Right. He goes down and he has, he's probably, hopefully someday, a Division II version of Kevin McHale, where he has post moves to either shoulder or left hand, right hand. And he's going to have the ability to play a lot for us in the future.
That's crazy. Yeah. That is crazy. He is Coach Luke Reigel here from UW-Parkside. Coach, thanks a lot for coming in. And when can people catch Parkside next?
Our last 2 regular season home games are coming up this week. We're Thursday night at 7:30 against St. Joe's, and then Saturday we play Indianapolis at 3 p.m. It's our senior day, and it's one of the few teams that's beat us this year. So
one other quick thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, we're looking forward to both those games and sending off our seniors.
To tell you what kind of job he has done, though, okay? 2 of the last 3 years, he has been the GLVC Coach of the Year. And if he doesn't get again this year, we're going to send a letter to the commissioner or something.
He wants to be my agent.
Yeah, obviously. He's trying to represent.
He's a rising star, man. Why not?
I totally get it. Thanks, Coach Reigel from UW-Parkside. We'll talk to you next time here on Sports Junkies at RacineSportsZone.com.